Alrighty, let me put up the countdown to let guys know that. Alrighty, let's give guys a moment to join. Grace, let me just check if we are live on LinkedIn. One moment. But we are live on StreamYard. Where are we? Let's give it a moment. Alrighty, I think we are live.
Okay.
Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. I'm
Yes.
good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the time. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Grace, it's 6 here. What time is it where you are?
It's 10 a.m.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, guys, understand why I'm saying good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Right, right.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for making the time. I am Noeline. I am a supply chain professional and an operational excellence specialist. I also am the host of Safe Space. And today I am joined by Grace Karaoke. Grace, say hi.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon, good morning. Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Noeline.
Thank you, Grace. So, Grace is a marriage and family therapist as well as a mental health therapist. She is passionate about helping individuals find their authentic selves, especially from family of origin issues that curtail their ability to express real thriving in their lives. She uses family system techniques to help individuals identify coping mechanisms that are born out of experiences from their childhood experiences. Her clients find it quite helpful to travel back to their childhood and unearth unconscious emotional motivations that lead them to think, feel, and act the way that they do. She helps them unlearn old unhelpful coping mechanisms in thought and action and trains and coaches them on how to develop new authentic ones and support them in the journey of continued healing and thriving. So that is who Grace is. So we are just going to go straight ahead, Grace, and jump right into it. And
Mhm.
if you have any questions, guys, those who have joined us live, do just put them in the comment section and I will post them to Grace. So, Grace, we are speaking about transitions and change. And this is coming from the point of there have been so many layoffs that have happened in the recent past. Are
Yes.
seeing the changes in the dollar, 26% change versus 2021. And we are all in one way or
Mm,
the other beginning to feel the impact of these changes in our lives. And change doesn't
mm,
just come from an economic impact point of view, it can come from very many different angles. So I guess
mm.
my question to you would be um, just one moment, would be how do our minds and our bodies interpret or receive change?
Right. Thank you. And it is true. So a lot of us, we are in that space of feeling quite a bit of fear of the unknown. And so one of the ways that our bodies and our minds will react to this or receive this information is we go into panic, we go into fear, and we start to think fearful thoughts. What will I do? What
Mhm,
if this happens? What about that or that? And so the mind is continually releasing stress hormones like now cortisol and also adrenaline, which puts us on alert. So when you have too much adrenaline in your body, then your body will begin to experience some sensations like now shaking. You might feel
mm,
restless. You might feel that you can't focus, you can't concentrate. You might feel some energy within your body, and that is what causes the need to wake up and move, the need to kind of do something. And also the overthinking. Our brain begins to overthink a lot. So those are basically, without going into detail, basically that's what is happening. The mind starts to overthink, and the body begins to feel restless. And so sometimes people will say, I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm feeling off. And I need for us to understand the organ, your brain, that organ releases chemicals that are mainly cortisol, which is your stress chemical, and also it releases adrenaline, which keeps you alert. Now, the other things that happen, nikusikia ni kama, you feel like you're going to diarrhea, so the stomach is going to experience that. The heart palpitation, you feel like your heart is beating fast with no reason. But also there is a thing over here, you feel like it's going up and down. Those are some of the things we do. But also we can talk about how our shoulders get tight and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you for explaining it. So at least now we are able to relate what exactly it is that's going on. So how do we typically respond to significant changes in our lives? Some of us may be aware, some of us may not be aware. So just unpack it for us.
Right. So typically what we do is, now I talked about what happens with your thoughts. You begin to predict the worst case scenario. And so what will happen is that you will try to find ways to manage those negative thoughts. You want to escape this continuous repetition of thinking about the worst case scenario, and then you feel stuck. You don't know where else to go with it. So what people do most of the times, you either overwork, so you stay a lot in the office. You want to focus, you want something that will focus your mind so that you're not overthinking. So people overwork, others get into relational escape routes, like now spending a lot of time with friends, wanting to do a lot of activity, fun activity. People use substances of to try and escape. So things like alcohol, smoking, drugs, food. It can be people use, go shopping. Other people, they get into sexual perversions of whatever it's gonna be. But also other people who are believers and Christians and religious people, they will spend a lot of time in their religious practices, because all we are trying to do is to escape the reality, you see. So you will see now how it will come out. It's within your relationships now. It's that you irritable, you will be less able to manage feelings of frustration. And so those are some of the things that we usually will do whenever we have significant changes in our lives.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. So can you share some common challenges that we as individuals or communally face when we are navigating transitions and change?
Now, some of the challenges we have is how now to cope with the things that I have spoken about. So one of the things we do as human beings, whenever you have a problem or when you feel like you need a solution, we talk to others. So the expressing of what is going on, we talk to others. Now, unfortunately, most of the times we haven't clarified the reason why I'm talking to somebody. So you may go talk to your parent, or you may go talk to a friend, a sibling, but they have no solutions for you because you yourself, you have not find what you need from them. So it is always good to be able to say to yourself, this is how I'm feeling and this is what is going on. What do I need? And once you identify what you need, then seek the solution from the people who can offer you that solution. So most of the times, one of the biggest challenge is that we are not able to identify what the problem is. And I will say this, this challenge is coming from one challenge, which is acceptance of what has happened. And
Okay.
so because I haven't accepted it, then it is giving me a challenge. So we would have
Okay.
to understand the acceptance puts you on a space of problem solving. But without the
Okay.
acceptance, the denial of the
Mm.
reality causes you to fight the change. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, first of all, be self aware enough to recognize that this thing is happening so that you can
Mm,
deal with the other challenges. All
right.
right. So, what would you say are some practical strategies that we can employ for managing uncertainty during periods of transition? You don't know when you're going to get your next job and other different changes. What are the
Right.
practical strategies?
Okay, so anxiety is what now we are calling uncertainty, the fear of the unknown, the fear that
Mhm.
something bad is going to happen and I won't survive. So we need to unpack that. What is it that you are telling yourself is going to happen and you won't
Mhm.
survive? So, for instance, let's take you have lost your job, or something has happened at the workplace, and some things have changed financially. You want to start asking yourself, so how is this changing my life financially? How is this changing my life practically in terms of my schedule, what I do every day? And then,
Mhm.
thirdly, you want to ask yourself, how does it change the things that I have obligation to? So, for instance, if I am the breadwinner, I am the financially stable person within my relationships, then I need to
Mhm.
ask myself, how is this impacting how am able to pay my bills? So be very specific about what it is that you are feeling anxious about. Number two, create solutions. Uncertainty will not go away until we have done the problem solving. Define the problem and then brainstorm about different options that you have. And then number three, allow yourself to see the pros and the cons. Don't just say, sometimes when I work with individuals and I say, what do you think your options are? And they start and then they
Mhm.
say, but, and they want to stop going through that option because they believe it won't work. In problem solving,
Mhm.
in order for you to be able to overcome the challenges of change, you've got to do the whole story to the end, if you get what I mean. That you have to
Mm.
say, this is an option, it's not a good option because. However, it has some merits to it. So the pros and the cons. And then if you do that, you do need now to look at all the options and see whether there is one you can start working with right now. And
Mhm.
that those kinds of strategies will, number one, create some kind of clarity in your mind so that you're not foggy and you're not worried and you're not overwhelmed with the helplessness that comes with
Mhm.
change. So you allow yourself to do the problem solving, but also to allow yourself to feel the change, because you will definitely start to feel relief, and your body now, with the practical strategies to manage your body sensation, is put in some physical activity like stretching, walking, running, and then with the mind, give your mind something that is soothing, like music, like taking a long shower, like talking to a friend, like journaling, writing your feelings and how you feel about the problem. Those kinds of things will help you. If you find that you cannot sleep at night, please learn how to do an hour before you sleep. You start to process what the day has been and release. This is what we call intentional release of tension, intentional release of worry, and allow yourself to do some sort of self-talk where you are telling yourself,
Mm.
even if I keep thinking about this thing, it's not going away. And this is the acceptance space that we are talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. So we've done all these things. We have identified, we've written down potential solutions. We are trying to figure out which one works. So how then do we identify and leverage our strengths to help us adapt to the change more effectively?
Now, this one is this is where you look back. You want to look at your strengths, because this is not the first time you have faced a challenge. It may not be exact the same, but you know it was a change, it was a challenge, it was a transition, and it was hard. So allow yourself to look back and ask yourself, how did I survive that? I'll tell you, psychologically, when we are faced with something that was painful in the past, we try to avoid the pain instead of looking at that pain so that we can gain wisdom that we survived. We were victims, but then we survived. So you want to say to yourself, so that you can figure out what your strengths are, you want to say to yourself, let me look and see, how did I survive? Now, a lot of times, the reason why we get stuck now in the maze of the mind is because we keep asking why. Why did that happen to me? How could that happen? What is wrong with me? Stop that and allow yourself to say, how did I survive? If you are able to identify how you survived, that is where your strengths are. And that is how now you will start to adapt to the change more effectively, because you already can see, I have what it takes to be able to manage this change and transition.
Okay, alrighty. So after we've done all of these things, Grace, how do we then prioritize our own well-being during these periods?
Yeah. So,
Because, for example, if you're a parent, your parenting does not stop because,
yes,
for example, you've lost a job. If you're taking care of your parents, even as a parent, that
yes,
does not stop just because this change has
absolutely.
come. So, how do you prioritize yourself as an individual for your own well-being during these periods?
Okay, great. So, living in your reality. So, somebody should write that down. Live
Mhm,
in your reality. So, if
mhm,
you have changed, something has changed in your job, with that example that
mhm,
you have given, the fact that now you still have your bills to pay, but then the job has changed, and so your financial situation has shifted. What you want to do,
mhm,
shift with the shift, you see. So begin to
mhm,
ask yourself, and this is part of self-care. You see what happens most of the time, we are too focused on making people comfortable, that when we are uncomfortable, we are unable to take care now of our own comfort. So if I am having financial stress because of a change and transition within my job area, then what I need to do is to be realistic about what it means about the things, the obligations that I financially have. That
mhm,
is you taking care of yourself. It's called self-compassion. Because I am sure if we stepped outside during our period of change and transition and struggle, and we stepped outside and we look in as if we were giving some advice or some support to a friend, we would know what
mhm,
to tell them, but we normally don't know
mhm.
what to tell ourselves. So
Ourselves.
that is what
Mm,
we call now the kind of distancing yourself from the problem. You are not the problem. The problem has happened, and you are two entities. So step outside and look in, so that you can ask yourself, if it was my friend, what would I tell her to do? Or look back and say, by the way, when Nyambura was going through da 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 da, it was similar to me, and this is how I helped her. This is how I supported her. Or you may have had somebody who supported you in the past, and this is how they guided you. That is self-compassion. Because now you're not
mhm,
saying, oh my goodness, what will the children do? Oh my goodness, the landlord. No, you are taking time to say, what am I going to do? So our well-being during these periods of change is very important. Number one, that which I have just said, that self-compassion has to do with your mind, what you're saying, what you are
mhm,
overthinking about. So I usually tell
mhm,
my clients who are overthinkers by nature, I tell, let's shift, let's overthink about your self-care. Let us talk about
mhm,
self-compassion. What would make you not? be compassionate to yourself, and you're worried about other people. And so once we do that, we come in here and we say, in the morning when you wake up, please take some time to sit down and ask yourself, where are you? Where are you going? Use your spiritual self-care tools. Use friends who you trust and know. So self-care means that you are focusing on yourself, and that is how we are going to prioritize our well-being.
Okay.
Oh, I
So,
can see that the next question is come. You want to read it and then I will go.
what role does self-care play in coping with transitions and change?
Yes, the role that self-care plays, and maybe here I will give you some specific self-care tools, is it does reduce the release of adrenaline and cortisol into your system. So if you are feeling a lot of tension, you are feeling a lot of heart palpitations, you're having the diarrhea feeling, you're having nausea, you're having headaches, you are not able to sleep at night. All those are symptoms that you can use. You can actually write them down and ask yourself, what self-care technique can I use with this? So number one, journaling. Journaling, we call it mainly we call it brain dumping. And brain dumping, usually you ask yourself, what has happened? What is causing me to feel how I'm feeling? Identify the feeling itself. And then number three, you want to ask yourself, what am I thinking? So what has happened is the event. What am I feeling is the emotion, and then what am I thinking are the thoughts. And at this point, I want to say, your feelings are triggered by your thoughts. But it is harder to identify the thought. It's easier to identify the emotion, because the emotion, you are feeling it within your system. So you say to yourself, I'm feeling lost. And then you think, you ask yourself, what thoughts am I having that are causing me to feel lost? And now, so that is the way you do the prompting, the prompts for journaling and brain dumping, and throw them on paper. If you are feeling that you are lost in terms of how do I manage my days, then what you want to do is also to ask yourself, do I have a schedule? And in this schedule that you have, identify the times when you are okay, or you have time that you could do some self-care in terms of walking, in terms of going for a swim, in terms of going to the sauna, if you are able to do that, in terms of, and this is now you taking care of your body, in terms of yoga, in terms of aerobics, in terms of anything, cycling a bike, anything that you can do physically. And why? Because adrenaline, when it is released in your body, it is energy. And that is why we normally have tight shoulders, we have back problems, we have the feeling of tightness in the stomach and in the chest. So these physical activities can help. Now, these days we have YouTube. Put on a YouTube tape where you can dance to those Lingala music and shake that body, because what is going to happen, you use up this pent-up energy within your body. Because again, if your body is tight, your mind is going to be clogged. So if you release the energy, then your body relaxes and you are clearer in your brain. It hasn't fixed the problem, but it has helped you to release all this baggage, emotional baggage that you're carrying with yourself. And let me say this, spiritual self-care is so important. Connect your soul with your maker and begin to ask for help from there as well, because there is a release that happens when you feel that you are not just alone. You have other people, you have a higher power to help you. It becomes so that you also take care of your soul. I usually say this, Noeline, that when your mind and your body are crazy, please engage your soul, because your soul can come in and your soul is going now to normalize what you're going through, especially for those of us who are believers in Christ. We know there are so many promises about forget the former things because I'm doing a new thing. And that is what we call the growth mindset. That yes, you failed in one thing, it doesn't mean you are a failure. This is an opportunity for you to find a solution to break away from what is familiar and create a new world for yourself. So these are some of the things that you can do from a spiritual space where you allow your spirit to be aflame with hope and faith. You see, not necessarily, the one that tunajichocha, we make ourselves excited. No. This is more rooted in truth and reality from your soul and the connection it has with its creator.
Okay, thank you, Grace. So, question: so, how can we as individuals maintain a sense of purpose during these times of transition? And what advice then would you also give to somebody who is being resistant to change?
Okay, so let me say this: when you are going through transition and change, I need to say that you are going through grief and loss. So let me paint this picture. When you have lost a loved one, you feel very helpless. Death is so final. When we lose a job, when we lose our livelihood, when we lose what used to make meaning and what used to make us feel we are, that we are in control, it feels like a death. That's how it feels. So you go through the whole thing. I can't believe this is happening. The whole thing of shock. Oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? Then you move into anger, where you are now saying to yourself, well, you are angry about whatever happened and the people involved, including yourself and God. How could I have been that stupid? Or wananionea, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? And then you have what we call bargaining. What if I had done this? So the mind starts to go back to the event and try to think what they could have done to avoid the pain they are feeling. So it is what we call bargaining. Some people will pray prayers of saying, if you save me from this, I will serve you for the rest of my life. I will give all my money to the poor. We do this bargaining with a higher power, with our God, in order for us, or even with ourselves, that if I get out of this, I will never. You see, we are bargaining there. And also in that bargaining stage, we might move to depression, which is the next step of dealing with grief, where we are telling ourselves that there is something wrong with us. And then we have regret and guilt and shame, that we feel helpless and hopeless. And that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness is what ushers us out of denial into the acceptance that this is it, it's what has happened, I better get up and do something. So the two tasks that we must move to after we have accepted the change is how do I adjust and how do I adapt to the new, you see what we did with COVID-19. That COVID-19 is a very perfect example of the fact that if you resist change, change will take you away. And we know individuals who refused to agree to the new protocols of COVID-19 and they did not survive, because they refused. Like the question is asking, what do I advise people who are resistant to change? I will say this. There is a quote that we know over and over again. The only thing that is constant in life is change. Accept it. Because when you accept the reality of your situation, it's very easy for you to shift and to transition into problem solving. Lack of problem solving is what causes people to struggle with change. And it's important to understand that grief process I've told you. And let me say here very quickly, there are 3 A's you need to know about adjusting to change and transition. Number 1 is avoidance. Avoidance means that where I know I have no power, I need to leave it alone. This is where now acceptance comes in, where we are saying it is what it is, the job is gone or the changes have been done, it's been done by the system, there is nothing I can do. I need to stop thinking it's going to become, what I have lost will come back. So avoid expecting that things will go back to normal, because even if what they will do is they will go back to a new normal, not back. They will go forward to another normal, and
New
that's what
normal.
happened with COVID-19. Then number two, adapt. Not adapt, but accept and adjust. Accept and adjust. Adjust to the new situation so that you can manage your expectation. In this adjustment of expectations, this is where we have a lot of disappointment and a lot of suffering, because we keep longing for things to be the way they used to be. So adjust to the new the new reality and drop or manage or adjust your expectations of what should happen. And then number three, adapt. There are some times when the situation, even if we jump up and down and call heaven all night, that situation will never change. So adapt. Don't resist it. Adapt to it and create new ways of managing. So, for instance, you have a bad boss, or you have a very toxic environment. Instead of fighting against this toxicity, ask yourself, how can I adapt to it? So what you are going to do is to manage your thoughts about it. So manage thoughts. If you have thoughts of refusing to accept the reality, you need to adjust them. So adapting to the new environment then gives you a way of managing your triggers, how you are triggered. Let me share that the Serenity Prayer. Everybody should look it up. It's all over the web. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it's very easy. This is my problem, and then you write down what I can change and what I can't. So the manager, I can't change the manager. The system, I can't change the system. What can I change? My thoughts about the company, my thoughts about the situation, my thoughts about my own worthiness, my thoughts about my ability to manage the change. So those are the things that I can change, and then I create a plan of action. You see, so if it is, I have no peace, I can't sleep at night, maybe I need to see a therapist, maybe I need to see my doctor, maybe I need to take care of my high blood pressure because the stress is too high, my head is constantly aching. I need to get medical advice, medical help. Maybe I need to change my diet so that I'm not eating foods that are triggering more adrenaline in the body. Maybe I need to be able to heal the symptoms that are clear, like now headaches, backaches. I need to go for a massage. I need to go. You see what I'm saying? So I then allow to identify what I have control over, and what I don't, I leave it alone. Yeah.
Thank you. That completely answers this question on what is the importance of seeking support.
Yes.
And there was also another question on how can we cultivate resilience, but I think you've also answered it as you were explaining on journaling and going physical activity and. So on the flip side, Grace, are there any warning signs that someone may be struggling to cope with a transition, and how can they seek help?
Yes, absolutely. Now, resilience is the ability to bounce back to normal, to your norm, right? And when we say bounce back to your norm, is bounce back to being in a well-being space where you feel you are in control, and where you feel that you can manage the changes that are happening. So it's important for us to understand resilience, even as I talk about symptoms or signs that you are not well. So resilience does not, usually what happens when you have a stressful situation like a transition and a change, you get stretched. So, but then when this stretching stops, because anyway, at the end of the day, after 2 or 3 weeks, you will be fine. There will be new normal, and so what happens is that you bounce back, and the elasticity goes back to normal. So we need to understand nothing changes about who you are. so that you manage your mental narratives. When you go into shame and you are thinking that something is wrong with you, you think that you are a victim of something, you need to allow yourself to ask, what is it that I am thinking they have against me? Is it real? Or is it more me projecting my feelings of unworthiness on the situation? So that you can allow yourself to clarify what it is that you are really struggling with, remembering that your skill set has not changed, your worthiness has not changed, you are going through a change. So the environment that is changing, it has nothing to do with you per se, unless you are slacking at the job, then you need to deal with that. But if it is a change that you have no control over, you do need to allow yourself to look at it and assign blame appropriately. So don't go into shame, where and again, like I said in my write up about what I do, a lot of us, change triggers helplessness that we used to feel whenever we were at home where there was chaos. And so whenever we have chaos anywhere in our lives, we go into helplessness immediately, you see. And then we do not interrogate this helplessness. Is it really that I am helpless, or am I just used to feeling helpless? And so I stay there, I sit in it, and I feel sorry for myself, and I feel helpless over and over again. So it's good for you to understand that maybe you might need the help of a therapist to just help you process that through. So number one signs are these ones. You can't sleep at night. You can't eat, you are eating too much. You don't want to be around people. You are withholding presence. You are withholding conversations from people. You are isolating yourself. Things you used to love to do, you no longer like to do them. You have no joy. You are crying too much, a lot. You are unable to manage frustration, so you react a lot. You are unable to manage your emotions. You are constantly having feelings and thoughts of victimization, feeling that you have been victimized unfairly. If you have those, plus now the physical signs that I talked about, the backaches, the tensions in the shoulders, the headaches that are not going away, the overthinking, you can't let go, diarrhea, the heart beating too much, the fear of being around people, all those are symptoms that you are not okay and you need to seek help. So the first line of help I would recommend is really a therapy session. A therapy session with a professional. If you can be able to manage to call a professional and have one session is enough for you to gain clarity. And once you gain clarity, most of us can manage our problems. We can shift. But we needed somebody to hear us, because what is happening is that the release of adrenaline and cortisol floods our mind with negativity. We are unable to swim out of that flooding. I hope it makes sense. So you can seek help with a therapist. You can seek help with your religious leader. And when you go to the religious leader, just tell them you need prayer, and probably you need somebody just to listen. And then number 3, you want to talk to a trusted friend. If you have a friend, especially friends who are within the same organization with you, they are going through the same thing. It can be that solidarity of holding each space for each other because you are experiencing the same thing. And then journal, write. And now, if you don't like to write, take your tape recorder, take your phone, do voice notes about what you're feeling. Let me say this. The reason why that is important, Noeline, is because when your brain is flooded and bombarded by negative emotions, what it needs most is release. Express it out, release it, brain dump it. So either through, so all those tips that I have given, they will encourage you to be able to release it. Do not escape. Don't drink. Don't go and do drugs. Don't smoke. Those are not necessarily helping you with the problem. All they are doing is they are escaping. They are helping you escape. Don't sleep. When you wake up in the morning, the problem will still be there.
It will be
So
there.
you can, but then when you wake up, do a problem solving thing. And let me say this, a lot of us, when we are in a lot of stress, we tend to not sleep at night. So we are tossing and turning. Get out of bed, go sit somewhere, write, create a problem solving. And I will tell you, let me give a very good example. So when I wanted to go and study what I do now, it's a many years ago, back in 1999. So I had gone through a situation that had caused me to be in such a strange place of change. And so the way I had known my life was going to be, suddenly it changed just like that. And I couldn't go back to what it used to be. So what did I do? I started making plans. So I have a lot of pain. I'm crying a lot, but then I'm beginning to think, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I was 29. So what I did is I decided that I was going to go back to school. That was one of my to do things in life. I wanted to go back to school, get my degree, get a master's, and move into a career. I didn't even know what it was going to be. So what I did is I started to look for a school, and then I found a school. Now, money, where do I get money? So one night I couldn't sleep, and many nights I couldn't sleep. So this particular night I woke up, and my mind was so fresh because of the anxiety I had. You know, when you have anxiety, your mind is alert. That's why you can't sleep. So I used that time to just stop and say, who can help me? Because the people that I had approached, relatives, hawako wananisaidia. So I said, and for those who don't understand that French, it's Kiswahili, they were not able to help me. So what I did is I stopped and I wrote. So I wrote, who is it that can help me? And let me tell you, I wrote 12 names of people from my community, my network. And then I was helped to think, there is a doctor so-and-so, that's the person I will call in the morning. Guess what? In the morning, I woke up, I have my piece of paper with names. I called that person. And when I called him and I told him what I want to do and what I would like help with, he was so excited. In fact, the school where I had been accepted, he went to a school next to that one. And he was so excited that I'm going to a school next to the one he went. And that is the way I created the solution for something that was wearing so down on me, because it was about my livelihood. And that is how I fixed my problem. And that's why I'm here today, because that's how I went back to school and I was able now to pursue my purpose, which is what I do today. So that's why I said, if you have a problem sleeping at night because of a change, a transition, and you can't figure out what to do, get out of bed and allow yourself to do a solution-seeking mission.
Very important.
Yeah.
Thank you for that guidance, Grace. So just jumping into some of the questions that have been shared, how can one manage new job anxiety? And I think this also will tie into, there was another question, give me a moment to find it and show you. On how can one adapt in a new environment that is male dominated, and how can one peacefully transition into a new career? So 3 in 1.
Okay, now, so let me just talk about anxiety. Whether you are going into a new career, any change, any type of change, good or bad, it will cause you to feel some anxiety. Anxiety meaning the fear of the unknown. So obviously, if you have a new job, you are excited about it. It's a new job, it's a new opportunity, but you are also anxious about what will happen. So what you want to do, one of the things that is so important for us to do, always when you have anxiety, the fear of the unknown, the fear of going into a new space that you have never been before, please sit down and ask yourself, what is the narrative in my mind? What am I telling myself is going to happen? What are the what if questions? Because that is what now triggers the feelings of anxiety, the feelings of fear. Anxiety basically is rooted in a fear of something. So allow yourself to sit down with a pen and paper and tell yourself, let me write down the things that I'm afraid of. What happens is that when you write them down and you look at them, you realize some of them are practical and some of them are unrealistic, or what we might call irrational. So I have an irrational fear. So for instance, you might say, what if my boss hates me? Well, that's an irrational fear because you haven't met your boss yet, you see. Or if you have met the boss and so you want to ask yourself, what is the evidence that is causing me to think my boss hates me? You see, so identify what it is. Now, so that now once you identify realistic fears and unrealistic fears, then you can be able to create action plans to reduce the fears. The tips I have given on how to manage your body and your mind, you use the same tips. It's just a job, but it is the same. Your body reacts the same, any type of change. So do more self-awareness where you are journaling a lot, and especially you guys who have who are overthinkers. The fact that the reason why you overthink is because you need somewhere to throw these thoughts. You see, to dump. Think about it. It's like trash. When it is full, you better remove it. Otherwise, it will start smelling in the house. So what you want to do is to remember that. Write it somewhere. If you are struggling with anxiety today, write brain dump. Go read about it. If you feel overwhelmed by a new job because of new responsibilities and not knowing exactly how to do the job, understand that you also need to create like a to-do list so that you don't feel so overwhelmed. And write a to-do list and group your tasks according to their priority. So red means I have to do this within the hour. I have to do this today. Green means that this is not urgent. I can do it at the end of the week. And yellow means that's the traffic light. The yellow means that this is not an urgent need, but it needs to be done. But these red ones, I need to deal with them right now. If you struggle with procrastination, ask yourself, is it because the task is too difficult? Is it because I don't have clear instructions about it? Is it because I just have an innate fear of perfection? I need to be perfect. Figure out why is it that I'm having a challenge to finish the task. Now, the question about I was terminated from my job. Okay.
Let me read it for you.
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
Grace. I was recently terminated from my job and I have not found an interview call back yet. I am struggling to aim high due to the feedback I received from my boss before the termination. I am struggling with the transition to looking for another job and change generally. How can I cope with this?
Yeah. So again, I will encourage you to look at how is my mind being affected. So your thoughts and your feelings, and then how is my body responding to all of this, reacting to all of this. So your first line of help is going to be take care of yourself. So start doing walks in the morning because you don't have a job. So don't stay in bed. Wake up and go for a walk. Wake up, go outside and allow yourself to breathe in the fresh air. Oxygen outside the house is fresh. And if you have trees where you live, trees, there is a certain chemical they release. Any greenery, it releases certain chemicals that are very helpful in reducing adrenaline in our body, but also encouraging the release of serotonin. Serotonin is the chemical that makes us feel balanced. And so, and also endorphins, the feelings of goodness, the feelings of hope and all that. So allow yourself to take care of your physical body by going outside. And then number two, you want to look at the symptoms that I talked about. So while you are looking for a job, what is it that what are the symptoms that you are and behaviors that you are engaging in? For instance, staying away from friends, not doing things that used to make you happy. So begin to remember the things that usually make you happy, apart from going to work. What other things did you do for self-management, for feeling good? And then number two, it is important for you to figure out who are your support system, because you see, you do not have control of when you will get a job. So right now, what you want to focus on, shift. And while you are looking for a job, shift to self-care. And then there is also something else, Noelina, I would like to say to anybody who you are in that space of looking for a job and you are feeling a lot of anxiety. Anxiety is energy. It's negative energy. Use it for something that you have been wanting to do and you have never done. So figure out do you have to do things that you wanted to do, but you used to say that I don't have time. So now you have time. So I usually say, Noeline, that whenever people who are thriving in life, they are the people who have a mindset that is growing. They are not fixed. So when something is going wrong, they acknowledge something is not okay, but they create an opportunity. They see the opportunity to create something else that they can do. So we go back to the serenity prayer. What is it that I have control over? So I don't have control over an interview or a job opening, but I have control over me. So what can I do? So sometimes people may need to take some of that free time to develop themselves, not professionally, but who am I? And this is an opportunity for me to go on a personal journey of self-discovery. So I may not have the money to pay a therapist, but I do have groups where people are talking about growth. And so you join those groups and you read books, you do TED Talks, listen to TED Talks and podcasts, and train yourself to learn how to manage the things that you're going through right now. I hope that helps.
It does. Yeah. I think it does, and it answers quite a few questions that came in regarding how do you cope with sudden dismissal, how do you encourage consistency, how do you transition well into a new space, what strategies can you use to, let me just show them, so because you've already answered them. Share strategies to cope when faced with a big change for anxious people. You've addressed these. What are the practices that will encourage consistency? You have addressed this. How can one peacefully transition into a new career? I think you've also addressed this. How do we embrace change? You've addressed this. How can we go through change in a hostile environment? I think you've actually broad spectrum answered all of them, and there seems to be a common theme around the issues that we are all facing in one way or another. And then our last question, which caught me a bit off guard because I was trying to do the connection between transition and change and what the person was asking, but I'll give it over to you because you're the subject matter expert. How does one cope with character decrease? I have no idea what this is. Like your skill set and talents in a workplace are good, but your character when angry turns the tables against you.
Now this is my area. I love to help people manage. This is basically, it's called emotional dysregulation. So that's the big word, the big phrase for it. So whoever asked that question, please write down emotional dysregulation. And number two, distress tolerance. That means that when you have distress, you are unable to tolerate it and you go into reaction mode. And what happens is that we have when adrenaline is released and cortisol and other stress hormones are released into our brain, we go into combat mode. So we are in fight, flight, that space in our ego. So we are having an ego response. So an ego response is where you go into self-preservation. You are feeling there is danger and you immediately go into action to protect yourself. The problem of reaction is that sometimes the brain is unable, once adrenaline is released, the brain is unable to discriminate whether this is real danger or it is perceived danger.
Perceived.
When it is real danger, naturally we are created to protect ourselves by running or fighting. So like me, I used to have a fear of dogs when I was a kid. So if I was sent to a neighbor's house and then the dog went, just barked, guess what I do? I ran away, and then what does the dog do? It runs after me.
And after
But
you.
some people would, well, over time, I learned, you know what? Dogs are friendly. They are as afraid as I am. They are as shocked as I am. So I learned to just tell the dog, no, it's okay, puppy, I'm okay. And then he starts to waggle its tail, and we are good. So the person who asked this question, what you need is anger management classes to allow you to understand your anger. I do those kinds of training. You need 12 sessions of anger management. It's something that can really help you, because then your anger is rooted in your experience. So from childhood going on. So you want to look and understand where you have come from. And then maybe you were humiliated at some point in your life when you were helpless and you couldn't. So you made a vow in your mind that I will never let anybody humiliate me like that again. So anytime you experience some sort of negative emotion, you don't interrogate what you should do. So event happens, then we have a thought about the event, and then it triggers emotions, and the emotions are what triggers our behavior. So this regulation of emotion is what the training that he or she would need. And every one of us, by the way, there are those who don't react, they act in. So they implode, and then this one usually explodes. So seek some therapy sessions, and you can be able to be helped. And of course, I am here. I am really passionate about this. Yes. So the classes, there is a class I'm offering, and Noelina have posted it for you to maybe put it up. It's a class on identifying shame in our lives. Whenever we are reacting and we have a problem dealing with shame or dealing with a situation that triggers emotion, we normally go into shame. And now we are trying to protect ourselves from shame. And so I would like to really encourage us, if you are able to join this class on Saturday. I usually do my classes on Saturdays via Zoom, and Noeline will put up the poster so that you see how to connect with us. And we will give you information on how to join the class. Very, very foundational, and it helps you understand yourself. Self-awareness is really the foundation you need in order to change your life. If you're not self-aware, you constantly are projecting on other people. And so get self-awareness so that you can gain insight, which will lead you to feel much more at peace within, because self-awareness means we have to go in and we have to introduce ourselves to ourselves, so that we stop really reacting to life and we start responding to life. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Grace. We've learned so much. I think I'm going to need to take a bit and just rewatch this again and taking notes and self-evaluating on all the things that you have spoken about. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know there's quite a huge time difference between us at the moment, but thank you. For everyone else who's online and who's going to catch this recording later, Grace is a therapist. I have personally been working with her for a couple of years. I can vouch for her. And please join her classes. In case there are any other questions, I will leave her contacts in the comment section. Please do reach out to her, ask her, and she'll be able to help. That said, thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic evening. And thank you, Grace. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.